Good morning, everyone. Happy Easter. We can still say that. Yeah, happy Easter. Thank you. As we approach Pentecost, we're a couple weeks from Pentecost right now, when Christ will send the Holy Spirit upon us. And the church already is turning our attention towards that moment. Because in the world today, where we come in contact with Christ, with God, of course happens in the sacraments. But perhaps in the most intimate way for you and me, happens with the Holy Spirit. Because the Holy Spirit, of course, is God, and as of our baptism, God starts to live inside of us. And if we let Him, He starts to wrap us up into what God is doing. So today in the gospel, Jesus, this is the passage right before, this is the passage from the Last Supper, the night before Christ dies. And He has this beautiful, extended sort of speech that He gives to His apostles, where He really reveals all of His desires, His whole heart, to His closest friends. And among other things, He says this, and this is what's getting us ready for Pentecost. If you love me, you will keep my commandments, and I will ask the Father, and He will give you another advocate to be with you always. That's the Holy Spirit. The Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot accept because it neither sees nor knows Him. Whoever has my commandments and observes them is the one who loves me, and whoever loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him and reveal myself to him. Here's what the church is telling us today. Here's what Jesus is telling us today. Wherever the Holy Spirit goes, Christ becomes present there. Think about it. The Holy Spirit is often symbolized with a breath, with air, with wind. At the beginning of time, at the very beginning of Genesis, what happens? God speaks. The Spirit moved over the waters, and then He speaks the Word. Who is the Word? Christ. And when He speaks in Genesis, what happens? It becomes. It actually does stuff. When the power of the Holy Spirit overshadows Mary, who is a great example to us because she's cooperating with what God is doing in her life, what happens when she cooperates, when the Holy Spirit is present? Christ becomes, is conceived, becomes flesh. And the promise to you and me is that Christ can come into the world again. Christ can continue to be present in a real way in Minot, in 2020, during COVID. Christ can actually be present here if we cooperate with that Holy Spirit again that He's pouring out on each of us. And what is the chief way that you and I do that? By following our vocations. Now, there is a vocation that all of us are called to from the moment we're born, and that's the vocation to holiness, to allowing God to do in us what He wants. So even to the young people here who haven't yet gotten married or entered a religious order or become a priest or anything like that, you already have a vocation. God is asking you to be holy, which means to obey your parents, and which means to pursue Christ, to let Him come alive in you more and more. But for those who have entered in a very concrete way into their vocation, be it the married life, be it whatever, we know one thing for sure in this world. In this world where things are always kind of in doubt, and things can be very confusing, and it's like, what the heck is going on? Did I pick the right job or not? You know, why don't I enjoy what I'm doing as much? Why is my life difficult? Why are all these things happening? Our vocation is our concrete grounding. The way that God has always been real, but when He became incarnate, Boy, that was helpful. Because it was a concrete fixture of there is God. I can actually see him. You know, if we were in Palestine 2,000 years ago, that's him, someone could say. That's God, you know, point across the way. You know, give God a high five. Share a meal with God. That was actually God there. Because God aids us, since we're body and soul, by coming in a physical, incarnate way. Well, for you and me, where is God in my life? He is in the church, and he's in the Holy Spirit dwelling in me, and that lives itself out in my vocation. If I wake up in the morning and I'm wondering, what am I supposed to do today? Well, number one, I'm called to be holy. Number two, I'm called to continue to love in the context chiefly of my vocation. The difficulty is sometimes we lose the zest for our vocation. We lose the pizzazz a little bit. Sometimes it's definitely there. The other day, just a couple days ago, I was walking across the street to celebrate daily Mass. And it's like it just hit me as I was jaywalking, you know, across the intersection right there, because there's no cars in town right now because of COVID. And I'm coming across the street, and it just hit me. I get to go celebrate Mass. I have to go celebrate Mass. I was coming over for daily Mass. And it was just one of those moments. Maybe you've had these moments in your life. And it just struck me, wow, that's my duty right now, is to go celebrate Mass. And that's exactly what I want to be doing. Sometimes our vocation is like that, and that's a gift, and we should be grateful for that. Other times, that zest is gone. That immediate desire is gone. And so what do? Let's go into prayer and say, Jesus, give me again a desire for my vocation. If I'm a parent with young children, give me a desire to play with my children. Give me a desire to cook dinner tonight for the family. Give me a desire to spend time with my spouse. Give me a desire for these things, Lord. Because the desire itself is a gift. Heaven will never be devoid of that desire. Heaven will be our vocation, our call to holiness, right there in front of us, and we are constantly wanting it. So it'll be like those rare moments, like I was describing in this life. That will be heaven all the time. But on this side of the veil, sometimes there are those dry periods. And we say, Christ, give me a desire. Renew within me the desire for my vocation. Jesus can become present in the world again today, and he becomes present in the context of our vocations. We say today, come Holy Spirit, fill my heart. May Christ come alive again today in me.